a skill set for it, you can get in. If you're willing to put in the work and time to just learn the skill, you can get in. And the trajectory of where you take your career depends on you. Like it does. Like you can sit and be, L1 help desk for the longest amount of time if you want to, or you can keep building upon that and then you make more money essentially at a quicker rate than other careers. So it's like for me, I know right now I've technically been like out of school and working full time for about what is it, 2 years officially out of school, but like around 3. When I left the job, I kept doubling my income. So it was like, all right, I can see where this can go. And it doesn't take me a long amount of time to learn the skills because for one, you're learning on the job, you're talking with
Mm-hmm.
people. And if I want to sit down and take the time to earn for certification, I can. So it's easier this way rather than I have a lot of family members who work factory jobs, I'll say that. And they are always talking about, I'm gonna make $30, in 30 years. And I'm just like, why would you wait that long to get there? Like that's kind of where my mindset is. Like, why would you work this job when you don't like it? It's back breaking labor. You don't like it, but you're talking about, other people have worked here this long. I'm gonna get a raise in 2 years. And I'm just like, why don't you use that time to learn a skill to do something that you want to do? If the job pays the bills, learn something you want to do. And then, eventually transition into that. But yeah, we talk tech about tech heavily because it's an easier way to get to like that higher income bracket. And it makes a difference when you don't have to worry about money technically.
Yeah, it definitely makes a difference. I think that kind of goes into what we were talking about earlier with the roommate situation. If that factory worker is around a bunch of factory workers that are saying, "Oh yeah, in a couple of years I'll be making this much," and that's all they kind of know. They think that that's like the appropriate mindset to have because people around them have the same mindset. So it's kind of like a trap. But I have to get around people that inspire you a little bit. Gotta get around. I say the people in your circle should be a little bit further than you in life. You don't want to be the smartest person in your circle. You don't want to be making the most money in your circle. You want to have a skill and have something to bring to the table in your circle. But if you're in a circle and everyone's feeding off of you, you probably need to get another circle.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot where you're essentially like the closest 5 people you're around.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people are just like, my mindset doesn't determine, are not dependent on people around me, but it really is. It really is. So let's dive a little bit deeper into like the school transition. So what was the transition like from going school full time to working full time since it's kind of, recent for you?
Well, the transition wasn't that bad. I feel like it was easier. Going to school and working is harder than just working, in my opinion. Uh, I don't think, yeah, I think the transition was pretty flush, especially since I did the co-op and the internship. I kind of knew people at the company already. I knew a lot about the company, and I think that helped a lot. But my advice for people that are transitioning from school to the workforce is just go into work with the mindset of you don't have to know everything. Nobody's expecting you to come in and, you know, rebuild the wheel or do anything extravagant. You need to go in like a sponge and try to absorb as much information as possible. And you don't need to go in with the arrogant mindset that you know more than, the people around you, or you learn some new way to do something at school and you're going to try to change the way the company does. You need to go in and absorb information and use that information to help your team and your group as well.
It's pretty solid. And that also too, for people who are looking to network, like you're still in school right now, you're looking to network with people, that sponge mentality will be very beneficial there as well. That can help you ease into a job like Brandon here, talk to people, get to know everybody there. Just being able to, that kind of puts you in a setting as you're not the smartest person in the room. Get to know, people that are a little bit smarter than you. And that really does help set up for, expanding your circle.
I feel like the only thing with the sponge mentality in some respects is like it can it can present itself as like obtaining too much information or like information overload. I know I suffer from. Um, because if I feel like I have too many options or avenues available to me, then I feel like I spend too much time like dwelling on the fact of where I want to go. So I feel like that's where that kind of motivation piece for me comes into play because it's like, well, what do I get excited about? Like when I'm introduced to it, or when people talk through their experiences, like what's a catalyst? Like what intrigues me? What's interesting versus kind of just like trying to see how to put this. Kind of just like progressing through like just these different conversations and different like seminars of people introducing things, talking about what their team does in respect to whatever the process is that the company does. Like I try to pin it down or detail it to how does this apply to me and what I'm trying to do. So anytime I go into a new company, I try to have like a trajectory of how is this aligning with what I want to do outside of the company. And I kind of try to like streamline like my pathway based on that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've definitely heard of the saying when people get too much information, they have the information overload. A lot of people are very analytical, and if you just feed them data points, they won't make a decision or they won't take any action. They'll just keep analyzing, and then next thing you know, the opportunity will have passed. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that, people struggle with, and they have to learn how to pull the trigger on certain things and not just try to analyze it to death, you know, as well as the motivational piece. You definitely want to have something that gets that fire going inside of you, but at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, if that fire ever gets put out, you still need to be able to remain disciplined and do what you're supposed to do. Some people go into
Mm-hmm.
jobs and they're very excited about it, and then they stay at the job for a year or two, and they're like, it's just I got a new manager now or something like that, and that fire is kind of going out a little bit, but you still have to go in
Right.
be disciplined. You have to go in there like you have the fire or like you have that motivation and still be able to get that job done. So that's a great point.
How important is being able to be yourself in the workplace to you?
That's a good question. I think that's something that's important. People definitely want to be themselves at work, but uh, you're very lucky if you're able to do that. That's what I would say. I try to be
Mm-hmm.
myself, but I also know that I have to be professional, and I understand the environment that I'm in, and I understand, you know, there's a certain way you have to speak and present yourself at work. Uh, I know that the people are trying to get away from that now, and they're trying to make it more like um, easygoing environment where you can just go in there and be yourself. But at the same time, I would say be cautious about just being too open and too just yourself because you're still in a professional environment. There's still people that's in the office that's been there for 40 years and they still expect a certain expectation of how you're supposed to be conducting yourself in the office. And if you get that mindset of, oh, I'm new and I'm from a new generation and we can just do it however we want to, um, that could backfire depending on what company you're at. So I would be selective on, just trying to be too open. But I agree that you should be able to be yourself at work, but realistically, you have to, you know, tighten up a little bit. It's just like That's what I that's how I feel. That's what I think.
Okay.
Honestly, that's not too bad because different environments require different things. And I think in our Black and Corporate episode, we talked about like the code switching part. And we mentioned how there are different levels of languages and speaking to people in different environments. So, like for me, I get to pretty much be me at work, but I'm also pretty professional in a sense. Like, you got to remember when you're speaking to people that you're essentially representing the company, and the way you present yourself can get you opportunities in other places as well. So like that is one thing to kind of keep in mind. It's like, you know how people say just for the job you want, not the job you have type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like it's the same sense of carry yourself in where you want to go in the future, like be your future self now, basically, to get you where you want to go. That's the sentiment that I have towards that. But also everybody's like pretty cool, and it's a different environment there. I'll say that. It's definitely different from the
Yeah.
other
I was
corporate
gonna
jobs.
say where I'm currently at is way different than where I've been, and I've been in a lot of tense work environments. But what section are we currently on in terms of questioning? Because I had a question for him, but I didn't want to ask it out of the theme of questioning.
Honestly, the flow is going.
Okay.
So yeah,
I'm
you good,
curious as to
brother.
how you manage I hate to say it like this, but how do you manage failure or shortcoming?
Failure and shortcomings, that's a part of the process. And you have to be passionate about the process, like we said. But I look at failures and shortcomings as an opportunity to get up. It's not about, failing or getting something wrong. It's about what do you do when you fail? How do you
Mm-hmm.
bounce back? How do you act when you don't get the answer right? How do you act when you mess up a system or some equipment? What do you do? Do you tell somebody? Do you act like it didn't happen? You got to just have that confidence in yourself that, yeah, I messed up and I'm gonna own up to it. And I have made this mistake. So now I found a new way to not do something. Some people,
Mm-hmm.
I found a way to do this certain task, but really they just found 50 ways not to do it, and they found one way to do it. Because you're never going to get it right on the first try. If you're going into an interview, you don't need to go in there saying, I hope I don't mess up on the question. Because if
Mm-hmm.
you're going in with that mindset, then you're probably gonna mess up on the question. Just have to go in there with a level of confidence they're saying, well, I'm gonna try my best. And if it doesn't work out, I'll have another opportunity and I'll just do better that time. I'll learn from my mistakes and make sure I don't make it again.
Okay.
I like that because failure. I used to be like had a fear of failure, right? But it ended up being I'll learn, I'll make mistakes along the like the way, and I'll learn another way that works and stuff like that. So I had to change my mindset of failure is not the end all be all. Is literally never the end all be all. It's just it's redirected learning. It's like if it didn't work here, there are other different ways. So it's just, as you said, part of the process. And I know we talk in a school sense because that's our target audience. Like you take a test and you fail it, but it's never like the end of the world. At the end of the day, it's kind of go on to the next week. You take the next test and like, all right, it wasn't that bad.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of once you get out into real world life,
Yeah, it doesn't
failure is just learning.
exactly. It doesn't always have to be something to do with, a test or something at your job. You can fail uh in various ways in life, but failure and shortcomings and just bad periods in people's lives, those are the biggest transformative phases in someone's life. That's what takes you on a different trajectory. That's what unpeels a layer that you didn't know was there. So I would say at the same time, like, you can be sad when something bad happens, but just look at it as, this is a opportunity. This is to
Hmm.
see what I'm made of, to see what's happening next. I've had disasters happen in my life, and those disasters, I think about them whenever I'm going through something else, and I'm like, well, this isn't as bad as that, and I got through that. You know, you got to have an iron mind. You have to have a will, and if you say you're going to do something, you have to do it. And people with the most trauma and going through the worst situations and getting through those situations, those are the people that have the stories to tell. Those are the people that have those are the people that are telling other people how to get through their situations.
Hmm.
So don't look at it as something bad. Just look at it as another chapter or another level in your life. You're leveling up. It's not always going to be sunshine.
What sports did you play?
I played football and baseball in high school, and I played baseball in college. Played,
So is the mentality you have from sports, or is it from like your family that's kind of ingrained in you?
it's from sports. It's from my life lessons, my life journey, uh, just going through life. You see people go through traumatic situations, then you go through traumatic situations. You fail at sports. Um, you fail in front of people, in front of large crowds. You get the glory in front of those large crowds as well. So you see all those different type of emotions, and you learn how to control those emotions. You learn how to use those emotions to your advantage. Some people, they get emotional and then it takes over them because they're not used to feeling a certain way or going through certain situations. So that's why I say the more situations you go through and the more adversity you face and the more times you fail, the better you get. If you never go through any rain or any mud, when it happens, you're gonna collapse, and it might not even be that bad. So I would say get out and do things that make you uncomfortable, and you'll
Yep.
get better at doing things that's making you uncomfortable. Some people are uncomfortable with public speaking, so they should probably be raising their hand in class and standing up in front of the classroom and talking. That's what they should do if they want to get over that. And if you're just going to be scared all your life, then you're not going to be competitive, and you're going to probably lose. So that's hard
Do
too.
Do you have any background in public speaking or just like speaking in groups?
No,
No, I'd be shocked. I'm shocked. Like you seem very like concise and like sharp in your responses. Like when you speak, like you're very like confident in like the progression of your words. And I don't know, just made me want to ask that.
thank you. I would say that comes from just speaking, talking to people. I don't have a background in public speaking, but I've done some presentations. Uh, I haven't done any speeches, but I've done plenty of presentations, and I've been in front of large crowds a lot. So that kind of knocks down the nerves, and just you kind of get used to it.
So to ask, what is something that you're uncomfortable with now that you need to put yourself in that position for?
Um, that's a good question. What am I uncomfortable with now? I wouldn't say that I'm uncomfortable with it. I would just say that it's something that you just got to keep working on. I would say corporate, corporate America. I'm not uncomfortable with it, but I'm new to it. I'm like a freshman in corporate America. So I have to, learn the ins and outs of it, get more comfortable with, going up to the boss's boss, having those conversations, going out to dinners, just getting that corporate swag, I guess. And I would say that's something that I'm working on. So I try to go into the office as much as I can. We are a hybrid, but you can go in the office whenever. Go in the office, make conversations, uh, ask other people what they're doing. and try to see if there's anything they need help with or something you want to get pulled into, or pull somebody else into your projects. Um, just being comfortable with doing those things and seeing how other people maneuver around the office and around the corporate world. That's something that I think is new for me. So I'm no expert at it. So I want to learn a little bit more about that.
Okay, so I'll say corporate world has changed like my outlook on things because I naturally talk to people, I, like naturally get to know people and all of that. There's this thing where I learned about investing, I learned about real estate, I learned about all these other things outside, my little bubble of family and like friends that, are not exposed to those. So corporate has exposed me to a whole like different side of life, I'm gonna say. Like when I first got my first corporate job, I was, that paycheck to paycheck person because that's pretty much all I knew. My mom would say, "You got money, go spend it," and I'm like, "Are you sure?" That was the mentality. That was the mentality. And so I was just like, once I got into budgeting and financial literacy and just understanding like what avenues I want to take my money, and then I met people who are actually doing the things like there are people who run real estate off to the side. They have their own businesses or they buy businesses and they just work this corporate job because they have benefits. So is it's the different avenues that this can take you has definitely broadened up my like perspective of how do I want to live my life. Like I enjoy tech, but I definitely have some things on my side that I'm definitely interested in doing. And that's all because I got exposed to it through the people in this corporate life. But that all depends on, what type of environment that you are in as well. Like if people want to talk about those things.
Exactly. So you got to make sure you're around people that are, going to the places you want to go to. And that the financial literacy point that you touched on, that's something that uh, the viewers should definitely look into, especially if you're still in college. You're never going to save your way to being rich. You're never going to, save your way into financial freedom. You have to learn different avenues. And that's why I say, um, make sure that you're going into a field that's going to give you the money you need to live the life you want. And with that money, you need to be putting it into different assets to uh, protect yourself from inflation as well as taxes. You have to learn about these things. You have to learn how to utilize credit. You have to learn what you're not going to be taught in school because they're not going to teach you these things in school. You have to go out and self-educate as well. So that's something that, it's probably for another pod, but
Mhm.
something that you definitely look into.
So I know we're basically at time, so let's figure out how we're gonna ease into these next ones. So how can others get to where you are? What were like 3 to 5 tips that you would like to share with the audience?
Um, if you want to get to where I'm at, then you have to first be okay with failure. You can't be scared of failure. You can't um, be timid. You have to go out and attack the world and say what you want and go get it. You also need to get around a network of people and make sure you guys all have the same goal and mindset. I know that you guys are probably still in college or younger, and you're probably going to be hanging out with people that this is the time in your life where people are going to be, going on different paths, different avenues, and they may be your friends. And sometimes you're going to have to let them go, and it's going to be tough. And you'll be able to come back and circle around and see them later. But if you want to go somewhere in life, then sometimes you have to, I wouldn't necessarily say cut people off, but you will have to learn to live without certain people because a lot of people aren't going to change and they're going to try to get you to be just like them and they're not going to really want you to change and they're going to give you flack for it. So you want to network with people that are on the same path as you. And the last thing is you just have to believe in yourself. You have to have a self-belief. You have to have a mindset that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. And that just comes with discipline, getting up. You say you're gonna get up and go to the gym at 5 in the morning, then go do it. Because if you don't do it, in your subconscious mind, you're gonna be thinking that when I say I'm gonna do something, I don't necessarily have to do it. But if you just build that mindset of if I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it, it's gonna translate into more than just the gym. It's gonna translate into I have a speech today or I have a presentation today. I'm gonna be prepared for that speech. I'm not gonna be scared. I'm gonna go over it with some peers. I'm gonna do X, Y, Z, and then you're actually gonna do it. But if you just keep staying in that zone or that mindset of, oh, I think I'm gonna do it, and then you don't do it, you're just gonna build up that psychological mindset of you don't really have to do what you say you're gonna do. So you need to believe in yourself, and that's how I would say the easiest way to do it is just do what you say you're gonna do. Other people are gonna respect you more if you say, hey, I'm gonna do this, and then they see you do it. So you want people to respect you, and so you have to respect yourself to get respect. People look at you the way you look at yourself. So if you're looking at yourself like maybe woulda, coulda, maybe I'll do it, people are gonna look at you like that as well.
I got a question I want to ask, kind of in the same realm of that. What's one thing, or if you have multiple things, but what's one thing that you would say to undergrad Brandon from where you are now?
I would tell them good job. But I would tell them just keep working. It's not gonna come overnight. It's not gonna come when you think it's gonna come. It's sometimes you're gonna go down, you know, you may go through a pitfall and you think, I don't know what's going on. You're gonna go through bad situations, bad scenarios. You're gonna think it's over. You're gonna think, I don't know how I'm gonna get it myself out of this. You're gonna think, you know, you're gonna think other people are passing you. You're gonna think, oh, why did they got a job, I didn't get a job. You're gonna see all this kind of stuff happen. And it's gonna put you on an emotional roller coaster. It's gonna put you in your head. You're gonna be thinking about a lot of stuff. You know, it's gonna happen, but you just have to stay disciplined, and you have to stay. You got to keep your mind right and sharp, and just keep working, and it's gonna compound effect, and then you'll be where you want to be at. It's not on your time; it's on God's time. So stop thinking that, oh, I'm gonna do this in this amount of time, and it's gonna work out this way, because it's probably not. But you have to just keep working, and you'll eventually get there. So, you know, don't be scared of the setbacks. Don't be scared of the downfalls. Don't be scared of the thing that you think will never happen to you, and then it happens. Like you'll be okay. Like you'll get over it, and you'll come out on top. So that's what I would say.
Thank you.
All right, so to wrap up the podcast, what is a motivating and insightful quote that you would give to those listening?
Motivational, insightful quote. I would say, kind of gonna make one up on the fly, but I would just say, just keep grinding, never stop, never quit, and believe in yourself. So that's just think about that when you're going through something that you didn't think you would ever go through. You'll be all right. Just keep grinding, never stop, never quit, and you'll start to believe it. Just keep telling yourself, telling your mind that, and it'll be in your mind. If you tell yourself you're unlucky, or you tell yourself all this other stuff, you'll start to believe it. So never self-sabotage. Never do that.
It's all about how you think. So I appreciate you, Brandon, for coming on to the podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in to gain knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to be insightful in technology. Check in with us and make sure you subscribe